In May 2025, the MMA world stopped in its tracks. A leaked video from Thailand hit the internet, and in it, Jon Jones said just two words that flipped the fight game upside down. "I'm done." That's it. Two words. But coming from Jon freaking Jones, those words carried the weight of an earthquake. What followed was pure chaos, whispers of secret $30 million deals, claims that the UFC tried to bury his retirement, and rumors that Jones had just walked away from the toughest fight of his career. But then, Jones opened up about why, and that changed everything. Let's rewind this madness. The video didn't look staged. It was just Jon, relaxed somewhere in Thailand, casually talking when he dropped the bomb, and instantly, the internet went nuclear. This wasn't a beaten-up fighter retiring after taking too many hits. This wasn't about injuries or age catching up. This was Jon Jones, arguably the greatest mixed martial artist ever, at the top of his game, still the UFC heavyweight champion of the world, just saying, "I'm done." And that's what made it so unbelievable. This is a man who had an insane 28-1 record with one no contest, the youngest champion in UFC history, the guy who cleaned out not one but two divisions. He was the standard, the blueprint, and now he was walking away, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. But here's where it gets even crazier. A few weeks before that video dropped, Jones had been posting some cryptic stuff on X, Twitter. One post in particular got everyone talking. He wrote, "I told the UFC my plans a long time ago. I have no clue why they haven't shared them with you guys yet." That wasn't random. That was a shot. A direct accusation that the UFC, the same company that built its empire off his name, was hiding his retirement from the fans. When Ariel Helwani broke the news on his show, things exploded. There it was, visual proof. Jones wasn't bluffing. He really had called it quits, and apparently, the UFC knew it long before we did. Now, the timing of all this, absolutely wild. Because the UFC had been hyping up one of the biggest fights in history, Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, the unification bout. Dana White himself called it the biggest heavyweight fight ever. So why would Jon walk away right when the stage was set for his biggest payday? To understand that, you've got to know who we're dealing with. Jon Jones isn't just another fighter. He's the guy who took the light heavyweight division and made everyone else look like amateurs. Daniel Cormier, Alexander Gustafsson, Rampage Jackson, Lyoto Machida, all legends, all fell. Jones was too smart, too long, too unpredictable. Then, in 2023, after dominating everyone at light heavyweight, he moved up to heavyweight, not because he had to, but because he wanted to conquer new territory. His first fight at heavyweight, UFC 285. He submits Cyril Gane in under 3 minutes. First round guillotine choke. Just like that, Jon Jones becomes the heavyweight king after 3 years away from the cage. 3 years where he'd been through it all: legal trouble, drug test controversies, public drama, and still, he came back and reminded everyone why he's the most gifted fighter to ever do it. Now when we talk money, Jon Jones isn't just another athlete, he's a business. His name alone could sell out arenas. UFC 309, his fight against Stipe Miocic in late 2024, $15 million gate. That's just ticket sales. Add pay-per-view, international deals, merch. Jon Jones fights print money. So when rumors came out that Jones wanted $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall, people thought he was just throwing out a crazy number to dodge the fight. But here's the plot twist. The UFC actually called his bluff. Backed by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. Yes, the same one throwing money at every major sport lately. The UFC said, "Okay, deal." Not just $30 million either. Reports said it could have gone up to $50 million once pay-per-view points and bonuses were included. Think about that. $50 million. That's the kind of money no UFC fighter, not even McGregor. The fight was locked in. Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, Madison Square Garden, July 2025. The build-up was insane. Old school versus new blood. The technician versus the powerhouse. The legend versus the rising star. And then, just days later, Jones pulled out. Gone. Done. Silence. The UFC was blindsided. Fans were furious. Nobody knew what the hell had just happened. Why would a man turn down $50 million for one fight? That's when the theories started flying. Some said it was about pride, that John didn't want to risk his legacy against a young hungry Aspinall who could actually beat him. Others claimed it was about control, that Jones was tired of the UFC's politics, the contracts, the lack of transparency. And then there was the nuclear, that Jones had been planning this for months, and the UFC knew it, but they hid it to keep selling the Aspinall fight hype. Jones himself hinted at it later in another post, saying something along the lines of, "Sometimes peace is worth more than gold." That hit differently. Maybe after everything, the titles, the controversies, the dominance, Jon Jones had finally had enough. Maybe the chaos, the fame, the endless expectations, it just wasn't worth it anymore. Or maybe, there's more to this story than anyone's admitting. When Dana White finally stepped up to the mic in Baku, Azerbaijan, in June 2025, you could almost feel the tension in the air. The UFC president was calm, composed, but his words hit like a bomb. "I have no inside information," he said, "but I don't know that Jon Jones really gives a rip if they strip him." That was it. The moment fans had been dreading but secretly expecting. Jon Jones, the most talented, polarizing, and complicated fighter in MMA history, was officially done. And according to Dana, the UFC had known it for months. Think about that. The promotion kept promoting him as the reigning champ, hyping a potential Tom Aspinall super fight, while behind the scenes, they knew he was out. That revelation didn't just rattle the MMA world, it raised some ugly questions. If they'd known for months, why keep Tom Aspinall hanging? Why let fans keep dreaming about a unification fight that was never going to happen? And why cling so hard to Jon Jones's name when the division had already moved on? Turns out, this wasn't just about one fighter retiring. It was about how deep the business side of MMA really goes, and how much smoke and mirrors the UFC is willing to use to protect its golden goose. But let's rewind for a second, because to really understand why this hit so hard, you've got to talk about the man who unintentionally became the center of all this chaos, Tom Aspinall, the quiet British heavyweight who turned into a full-blown wrecking machine. This guy wasn't just winning fights, he was ending careers. 14 of his 15 wins came by finish, a staggering 93% finish rate. That's not dominance, that's destruction. In July 2023, he starched Sergey Pavlovich in just 69 seconds to claim the interim heavyweight title. That wasn't luck, that was a message. A new king was coming, and his name was Tom Aspinall. Aspinall had everything Jones didn't want to deal with: youth, speed, knockout power, and a well-rounded game that could threaten Jones everywhere. His takedown average, double that of Jones. His striking, sharper, his hands, dynamite. While Aspinall was out there defending his interim belt, like when he smoked Curtis Blades in July 2024, Jones was posting sporadic training clips from Thailand. No fight camps, no intensity, just vibes. And that's when the whispers started. Was Jon Jones ducking Tom Aspinall? The internet exploded. Analysts, fighters, and fans all jumped in. And honestly, it wasn't looking good for Bones. He demanded a $30 million purse, got it, and still walked away. Ariel Helwani even reported Jones expected them not to meet his number, using it as a convenient escape hatch. Make the demand so high, the UFC backs out, and you can say, "Hey, I was down to fight, but they wouldn't pay me." Classic misdirection. Even Daniel Cormier, Jones's old rival, didn't hold back. DC suggested that Jones might actually fear a knockout loss to Aspinall, and honestly, that made sense. Jones's whole legacy rested on being virtually untouchable. His only loss was a DQ from illegal elbows back in 2009, but at 38, coming off pectoral surgery, facing a guy like Aspinall, one clean shot could rewrite history. Jones of course denied all of it. He mocked Aspinall, calling him annoying, downplaying his resume, saying he hadn't beaten anyone special. He even threw shade at Andrei Arlovsky, saying he was old when Tom fought him. Jones basically said fighting Aspinall did nothing for his legacy. Instead, Jones wanted what he called legacy fights, names that would look good on his Wikipedia page, not hungry contenders trying to take his head off. He mentioned Alex Pereira, the current light heavyweight champ, a two-division kickboxing legend known for knocking guys into next week. Even then, Jon Jones couldn't stay out of the headlines. His manager teased a major announcement coming soon. Fans went wild. Was he coming back? Was it a boxing crossover with Jake Paul? Or maybe, just maybe, that Alex Pereira super fight? No one knows for sure. But one thing's certain, Jon Jones might have left the octagon, but his shadow still looms over it. And if history has taught us anything about Jon Jones, he's never truly done.